So Basti, what are we gonna go through today? It's one of the topics only, right?
Yeah. So one of the topic that we're going to talk about today is a nerve mobilization, and it's a topic that is actually fairly old and goes back to the work of Dr. Brieg and Michael Shacklock. I think it's around 25 years old now, and these guys started to play around with mobilizing nerve tissue. So it's a little bit like muscle tissue, but if you look at the human body, and I use complete anatomy in here to give you guys a good view of how this looks. Can you make me a co-host as well so that I can share my slide on my screen? If you think about the human nervous system and the nerves themselves, they cross a couple of different joints, and also when you look at the spine itself and you start moving your spine, what you're seeing is that you put stretches or traction on the nerve tissue itself. And by doing these nerve mobilizations, I'm going to share my screen now. So this is the human nervous system. You have the brain at the top, and then you can see like a human being is actually composed of one big nerve that branches out into a lot of different body parts. So everything here starts at the spinal cord, and then you see there's a lot of branches where the nerves go off to go to all parts of the body, because the brain needs to get signals and send signals to all the tissues in the body. So you'll see we're one big nerve that's running through the full body. And like with muscles, it's easy to understand now that if I pull my shoulder blade down, and you see the nerve over here, that the nerve is being pulled down as well, and you get an elongation of the nerve. Or when I move my head to the other side, away from the picture over here, away from the shoulder over here, the nerve will be stretched. So the basic, very mechanical principle here is nerves go, or the one big nerve that branches out, all these branches, they go through the tissue, they cross a bunch of different joints, and depending on what you do with the joints, depending on what you do with the spine, you can get good traction on the spine, on the nerve. You can slack the nerve. So if you have too much tension on the nerve, let's say you have a herniated disc and the nerve is under a lot of stretch, you can also slack the nerve, so you can get tension out of the nerve. And
what do you mean with slack the nerve?
Sorry, slack means getting the tension out of the nerve. So if you look at the spinal cord, and I'm already starting to talk about the movements that you can do. If you look at the spinal cord, it's like the one big nerve that goes down in between your vertebrae. If you flex your spinal cord, you're elongating the nerve, and it's super interesting. Like the nerve is almost elongated. It could elongate to about 9 centimeters, almost 10 centimeters. That's quite big, that the nerve gets longer. But on the other hand, so when flexion puts the nerve into like tensions the nerve, extension, on the contrary, gets tension out of the nerve, and you give the nerve more space to move freely. So on the one hand, I can really pull on the nerve. On the other hand, I can make the two ends of the nerve go together so that the nerve is very relaxed. It's like if I do this with, sorry?
So the nerve will be looser. Instead of being more tense, it will be more relaxed, like an elastic band.
Yeah, it's like if I do this with my arm now, I extend my arm, but I'm not like forcefully using my triceps. My triceps is very, very loose. Yeah. It's the same with the nerve tissue. If I really extend it, I get a little bit more traction. But if I flex it and I bring it over here, like the tricep, it goes from here to right about here. Then I put a lot of tension on the nerve. So this is tension. This would be relaxation for the triceps, in the sense that the ends move closer together. So like one thing is directly sensitizing the spinal cord. The other one is tensioning or slacking the peripheral nerves, all the nerves that move away from the spinal cord. And like as I just said, there's different motions that you can do to create these different sensations and to create these tractions or slacking movements. So the primary motion that we're going to look at is flexion, because flexion has huge impacts on tensioning the nerve. So I think compared to extension, if you go into flexion, the tension on the nerves increases about like 20%, which is quite a lot. So flexion of the spine is like a great way of putting more stretch, like generally on the spinal cord. The other thing that's very interesting is lateral flexion. So if I bend myself to the side, and the same, it's very easy to understand and see as well. If I create, let me add another layer, not muscular layer. I need to add the skeletal layer. Sorry, I'll get the muscles away. There you go. That's skeletal layer. So if you now bend to one side, it's very easy to see that you're going to compress the vertebrae on one side, but on the other side, the hole where the vertebrae, where the nerve is coming out, you increase the diameter of the hole on the side that you're leaning away with. But the nerve itself, if I move this way with my upper body, I create tension on the outside, on the left side now. I create tension on this side of the nerve, like doing a leg stretch in this position. If this is elongated, I create more tension on this side, less tension on that side, or less stretch on that side. So by side bending, I can also target the nerves, and I'm more targeting this side to go into a stretch position, and this side going into a flex position. And then we could also do rotation. It's not super clear yet what rotation really does, but these are the main spinal movements that we can do to target the nerve. So in essence, like the basic concept is I can do flexion, I can do rotation, I can do side bending, and a combination of all these three things to start moving the spinal cord. And then depending on my joint positions in the periphery, in my arms, shoulder blade, or in my legs, I could also start like really targeting peripheral nerves. So one word of caution, if like, or first of all, let me say, like, why should you do that stuff? Okay, and like one of the main reasons is if your nerve tissue is not able to move really well, and you're creating like kind of this like stretchy sensation. It's a little bit like if you've never stretched before, and you go and you try to go into a deep stretch, your brain will protect you, and it will tell you, hey, there's too much stretch on the muscle, and it will reduce your range of motion. If you have stretched for a while, your brain goes, okay, that's easy. You can go further down, further down. It's the same thing for the nerve. If the nerve has never been tensioned, or it's not tensioned frequently enough, your brain will go like, okay, there's too much tension on the nerve. I will restrict your movement. And very, very often it's like the tension on the nerve that's restrictive of movement, and not the tension on the muscle. So there's cool studies out there looking at now why the benefits, for example, range of motion. If you do a nerve glide for your for sciatic nerve, you'll increase your range of motion in like a forward bend quite dramatically without doing a muscular stretch for the nerve, without doing a muscle stretch. But just by moving the nerve through the tissue and allowing the nerve to move more freely, you can create, on the one hand, more range of motion. Very often, there's also bad transduction of signals, so it will increase the transductor capacity of the neural tissue. So signals are better going through the brain, and the signal from the brain is more easily going to the muscle. So you can what you will also oftentimes see is better movement control, better strength levels. So all these things that you can do is like increased range of motion, increased levels of strength, increased movement capacity in regards to the quality of movement. If you do any technical work, all these things are things that we regularly see when we do nerve glides with people. One word of caution: if you are in pain, you should not put too much stretch on the nerve. So if you have a herniated disc and your leg hurts, it's probably not a great idea that you go and try to mobilize stretch the tissue of the nerve, because once again, if the brain senses too much stretch on the tissue, it will go like, hey buddy, take it easy. And very often, if you have a herniated disc, you're already in the nerve is already under quite a lot of tension. But that said, let's look at a couple of nerve glides, and I want to keep this really simple. I'm going to stop my screen sharing now. So for you, when you do this, I think a couple of good ways to to do this, or one important concept is like test, retest stuff. So reassess after you've done the nerve glide. For example, you could go like, okay, I'll do like a shoulder press. I have slight discomfort in my shoulder. I have maybe limited range of motion in flexion. I feel weak on that side, but more on the like front side of the shoulder. What kind of nerve glide could I do? It should be a nerve glide that's targeting the muscles and the tissue that's at the front of the arm. Okay, so the first thing, or the first drills that I want to show you, there's a lot of different nerve glides because we have, if you have seen in the picture, there's so many different branches of the nerve. But I want to show 2 nerve glides for the upper body, and then I want to show 2 nerve glides for the lower body. Okay, like one nerve glide for the upper body. It's really nice if you have issues with your biceps, if you have a weak biceps, if your shoulder flexion is not great, if your elbow flexion is maybe hurting. It could be that your muscular cutaneous nerve is not working properly, or that it's entrapped somewhere, or that it just needs to be a little bit mobilized to get better movement out of that. So the nerve glide for the muscular cutaneous nerve is a fairly simple one. And what you will always experience when you do nerve glides for your upper body, or most often, is the nerves, they have branches going to muscle tissue, and they have branches going to skin tissue. So the muscle tissue, you don't feel anything. If you stretch it or if you move the nerve, it goes to the muscle tissue, you won't feel anything. But what you're going to feel is, if you start tensioning the nerve in the upper body, you oftentimes feel a sensation in the cutaneous region of the nerve. So in the region where it innervates the skin. So the first nerve glide, I think it's a really cool one. You can do this before you do bicep curls. If you do chin-ups and you feel that your biceps on one side is not working properly, if you have any pain in like almost feel like a impinging sensation in the shoulder, or something like a biceps tendonitis or stuff like that, that oftentimes really helps, and you get way less pain and also quite a bit of strength. So the nerve itself, I'm going to show you the picture again because I think it's really interesting. Let me share my screen one more time with you. Okie dokie. I'm going to move in here now. Okay, wrong direction. So now we are up here. Okay, so you can see when I do a nerve glide for the upper body, for upper body means for my extremity, for my arms. You can see that all the nerves that go out and reach the arm, they come from the cervical spine. So from C1 to C7, like the top vertebra, right below the skull and above the thoracic spine, all the nerve roots go out from these vertebrae, and you see that the nerve is traveling right under the clavicle. Yeah, under the clavicle, and then it goes like over here, and then of course it branches out a little bit more, and it goes. If I show you the picture from the back, it looks a little bit different. But in here, I have, where is it? So this is the muscular cutaneous nerve that I it's so small. Let me zoom in a little. There you go. So this is the muscular cutaneous nerve. It's innervating your biceps, and it's also innervating the top part of your skin. So how can I put more tension on the nerve? If I use my right nerve, so the first thing that I will realize is if I do any head movement away, I will put more tension on the nerve. If I make the distance between where the nerve goes out and my shoulder blade bigger, I create more stretch in the nerve. And not only in this nerve, but in all the nerves that go under the scapula and go to the right arm. So just by doing this movement and pulling my shoulder down, I'm creating a lot of tension in the nerve. Okay, and then how can I specifically target that one? So it crosses the shoulder joint, and it crosses the elbow joint. So if I want to put a stretch on the nerve, I'm going to stop this now so that you guys see me better. If I want to put a stretch on the nerve, what I can do, or what I need to do is, it also goes up all the way down to here to this thumb. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to do like a radial deviation of my wrist. So I'm turning my wrist this way because the nerve goes over here. It crosses this tissue over here. By doing this, I'm putting tension on the nerve. I need to extend my arm because the nerve crosses on this side of the arm. If I flex it, I have less tension on the arm. If I extend it, I have more tension on the arm. Then I need to bring back the arm. So the arm needs to move backwards because it crosses right here at the front. Then I need to push the shoulder down and pull the scapula back. Okay, so now I have already quite a good sensation over here. So it's this movement of the wrist. It's extension of the arm. It's moving the arm back. And then it's retracting and pushing the shoulder blade down on that side. If you don't feel anything yet, the next thing that you can do is, as I told you, it's like a lateral flexion away from that shoulder. And now you should actually get a really good sensation on the nerve. And that said, really good. If you do nerve glides, don't aim for maximum tension. Like 3 out of 10 is more than enough. You don't want to injure nerval tissue. It takes quite a bit of time to heal, and it's very easily irritated. So 3 out of 10 is great. So this is like the general tensioning sequence. So now I have a lot of tension on the nerve. If you have issues, especially if you have a herniated disc in your cervical spine, or if you have pain, the first step that I would recommend is not really putting a lot of tension on the nerve, but trying to do the opposite, like trying to slack the nerve a little more. So slacking means getting tension out of the nerve. So slacking is if I put tension like this on the nerve, I need to do the opposite thing to slack it. So what I can do is I could flex my elbow, I could lift my elbow up, I could do a deviation of my wrist towards my body, and I can move my head to that side. I can also extend my thumb and move the thumb in this way. So now I have a lot of slack in the nerve. There's a lot of free space in the nerve. There's not a lot of tension. That's a really easy way. For the upper body, I have not seen that works so well, or I have not tried it so much, but I have seen amazing results for people with herniated discs by going into slack positions of nerves, that they like improving range of motion within minutes, around like 20 centimeters, being pain-free. If you have a forward bend problem and stuff like that, it's amazing, it works amazingly well, very, very often. So the slacking positions like that. And then another thing that you can do if you're like a little bit more like that kind of like a pain client is sliding the nerve. It's like flossing the nerve. So flossing means I have more tension on one side, and then I'm reducing tension on the other side. So this is the stretched position now, okay? I'm in this position. Now I feel a lot of stretch. If I move my head back to neutral position, I'm creating less stretch at the top of the nerve here. I still have to stretch down here. So now what I can do when I want to floss it, now I create more tension at the top, but now you see my wrist moving, my wrist moves in the other way now. So I'm creating more tension up here, less tension down here. And I can do this sequence going back and forth. Just remember, you need to keep all the other spots in place. And if you do this well, what you'll see is that the nerve travels around 1 centimeter in the tissue. So it's being pulled one way, it's being pulled the other way. It's a great way of mobilizing the nerve. And also when you're a little bit more pain, you're not putting so much stress on the nerve, but you're still moving the nerve quite a bit through the tissue. So slacking and sliding or flossing is great if you have a little bit more pain issues.
And
Slacking, I would go slacking first, then sliding. And stretching, you can go like the stretching sequences and move around and do different movements. I would recommend that only if you have no pain. You can still see it. Yeah.
And what's the benefit of stretching? Is for gaining mobility?
It's for like moving, like it's for moving the nerve through the tissue. So what I recommend when you do this, like just that's a static stretch position for the nerve. That's most often not the most beneficial stuff that you could do. So what I recommend is the goal is that the nerves moves better through the tissue or through the tissues in different positions. So I'm putting a little bit of stretch in the nerve, and then I'm not holding just this position. I'm doing like a circle with my arm, so that the nerve is being pulled in different directions in the tissue, because the muscles create different muscle tone or different activity. I could do like shoulder up and down. I could do like shoulder blade circles. I could do like wrist circles. I could go like, okay, I can do flexion extensions of my neck. And all that stuff will help to move the nerve in different tissue, because we are like three-dimensional beings, you know, like everything I do up here, it affects everything down here in different ways. So go into a little stretch position, move the nerve around, or move the body around, and you'll have slightly different effects and maybe different feelings on different branches of the nerve. And the goal is, once again, increase range of motion, increase strength levels, less pain when you're moving, more range of motion, better coordination, great benefits. So this is one nerve glide. The other one for the upper body.
Is there a routine? How will you be doing the routine? Is it like 10 seconds in flossing, stretching?
Okay. Well, what I normally do is, when I do it in my class, I think it's great to learn all these nerve glides, because I do a lot of that stuff. Let's say we're going to do pull-ups. I want people to have a better engagement or chin-ups of their biceps, or more range of motion when they go overhead. I'm going to do a nerve glide for the muscular cutaneous nerve. So what I'll be doing, I'm going into this stretch position, and then we're going to do 3 to 5 circles one way, 3 to 5 circles the other way, 3 to 5 shoulder circles or shoulder up and downs, 3 to 5 knots in that position. So I'm just doing 3 to 5 repetitions. So I'm going to move around so that people have the feeling that they're moving as they're mobilizing the nerval tissue. So you can go and just hold it for 10 seconds or 30 seconds, but I think that's fairly boring for people in a class, and I actually want them to move a little bit more. So I'm just going to, okay, I'm going to a stretch position. I'm going to move something around, 3 to 5 repetitions, 3 to 5 repetitions, 3 to 5 repetitions, and then they're actually mobilizing the joints, they're mobilizing the nerval tissue, and that's how I most often use it in a class. Okay. You can be very specific in slacking and duration if you're working with, I think if you're working one-on-one with clients. For the upper arm, if you can look at the fingers, you can specifically target fingers. If people have fingers that fall asleep or stuff like that, you can specifically floss these fingers as well. But I think there needs to be more one-on-one attention. But there's still great benefit for just running. Hey guys, this is the nerve glide that we're doing. If you get into the right position, almost everybody will feel it. And you need to tell them, hey, don't go too hard on that. Take it a little bit easier. 3 out of 10 is enough. But then just move around, and very often people say like, that's amazing. I can really contract my biceps now. So I think a cool test is, can you make your bicep like flex so hard within a second that it almost cramps? A lot of people can't do that. Okay, so it's like, okay, what do I need to do to do that? I need to supinate my arm. I need to pull it in. I need to lift my elbow up. And if I do this well, you can probably go into like a cramping position almost immediately.
Yeah.
If you can't, for example, one thing that might be wrong with your bicep is that there's muscular innervation, that there's something with the nerve that's not working properly. Do the drill. Hey, see if you have better contraction of your biceps quicker. Okay, so this is one for the upper body. The other one that I think is really nice to do and fairly easy to feel, that's actually the one that I always show as the first one, is the median nerve glide. So the median nerve glide, it's innervating, the cutaneous innervation is down here at the fingers, and it's actually innervating a lot of the muscles that we use to grip something. So all the flexor, or a couple of the flexor muscles in the palm. So it's great if you have any finger flexion issues, if you have any wrist flexion issues or pronation issues in your underarm, and it's in the wrist, and I really like it because it's super easy to feel and almost all people feel it. And as you can see, I'm going to share the screen one more time. Oops. Give me a second. Why the heck is it doing this? Okay. Okay, so in here now I mark there's the median nerve. So once again, it goes if like up here from the top, it's from C5, C6, C7, C8 down to T1. That's where the nerve comes out of the spinal cord, and then it crosses again. It crosses the elbow joint right here at where the little bump is of your elbow, and then it goes down here in the like below the carpal tunnel. If you have something like carpal tunnel syndrome, it's a great thing that you can do is select the nerve and get a little bit tension out of the nerve and then start mobilizing the nerve. But let's talk about how to do it. So carpal tunnel syndrome clients will benefit massively from doing the sliding or slacking version first, but then also slowly building up, like for working up on the tensioning sequence. So let me get out of that screen share. So easy version of that is you splay your fingers, you put your arm to the side, you try to extend the wrist really far because the nerve goes here. If you do this, I put less stress on the nerve, this puts more stress on the nerve. I put the arm to the side, I'm going to depress my shoulder blade again, and I'm going to retract it, I'm pulling it back. And only if you do that, most people will feel the sensation all the way down to the fingers and in the underarm. So you can try this yourself. If you don't feel anything, you can get a little bit more stretch on the nerve by turning your head to the side. But the goal, really important, is fingers up, wrist up, extension, shoulder down, head to the side. If you go into this position, you should be able to feel like a weird sensation in the fingers. Yeah? So it's the thumb, the index and middle finger. These fingers are affected if you do this nerve. Once again, if you have like carpal tunnel issues, for example, maybe you start with a position where you slack the nerve. So if this is the tensioning sequence, I need to reverse the tensioning sequence. I can go into this position and kind of like hug myself, elbow is in. Okay, in this position, there's almost no stretch on the nerve. It's like the sweet cuddling. Sit there for a minute, 90 seconds, 2 minutes, get all the stretch out of the nerve. And then what you can also play around with is once again the sliding technique. So I have tension on both ends. If I want to have less tension, I can make wrist go loose. This will almost for everybody put out the tension. If I start extending my wrist again, I feel okay, there's stretch building up. I go back to neutral with my head. Down, up, down, up, down, up. This is once again a great sliding sequence for the median nerve. And it will start moving the nerve around the tissue. And very often what you'll feel is that you get better sensation in your fingers again, that if you have this itchy kribbeln, and I don't know, like if the fingers are kind of like bumpy and feeling weird, that you can get, numbness, that you can get rid of this numbness because you're able that the nerve is able to move better through the tissue again, and the signal quality is improving, and that's how you reduce any kind of pain and also numbness and increase strength levels again. Yeah, so I think these are 2 easy nerve glides for the upper body. There's a couple of more that you can do. You could do one where the triceps is more involved, where your delta muscle is more involved. So there's a bunch of them. What we could maybe do is in the future is like a nerve glide per week that we teach people in a short little video. So that we just go over one and make it like a 3 to 5 minute session of, hey, this is the nerve glide for this thing. Try this in your warm up. I think that would be a nice way of. Yeah,
I think it would be good to have like a session of 2 or 3 nerves, and then we go over the entire routine, which is pretty quick. We just need to do it once, and then people can duplicate it, because even for me now it will be difficult to remember, okay, should I push it that way, open, not open, you know, that will be great for next episode.
So I think what we should do in the next episode is cover a little bit more the lower body, because now we had only movement with the cervical spine. Yeah. But I think lower body would be it's really important. Like most of the things that you do in functional fitness are on your legs. It's very rarely that you don't use your legs. And I would recommend that we cover like 2 to 3 of the I would say most problematic areas that we see for people when they do functional fitness, and where they see great benefits in doing the warm up.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, but I think for today is perfect, right? It's
I think it was
30 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's leave it here, and then next episodes will be doing the lower body nerve. How do you call it? Nerve mobilization.
Nerve glide, nerve mobilization. Yeah, both valid.
Okay, sounds cool.
So it's next week, 8:15.
Yeah, same as before. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, cool.
Cool, Basti. Thanks a lot.
Man. Thank you.
Take care. By the way, are you quitting on your Whoop?
Oh no! I was just it went off battery when I was away, and now I was I'll put it on again. I'm not quitting, bro.
All right, Basti.
Have a good day.
See you soon. Yeah, you too. Bye.
Bye.